welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited that you guys are here, whether you are listening or watching us. Today, we have a really exciting conversation planned for you. And it really stems from the idea that every coach needs a coach, and because of that, the industry of coaching has literally been exploding over the last 5 to 10 years. And so for some of you who are listening who maybe have just entered the arena of coaching, or maybe have been coaching for a while and are ready to scale up, this conversation is going to be just what the doctor ordered. And to help us kind of navigate these waters from shifting from our 9 to 5 into the world of coaching is a master certified life coach, the one and only Bettina Jones. Let's welcome her to the podcast. Hey.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Corey. Thank
Hi,
you
I'm
for
so
having me.
excited you're here. Oh, definitely. I'm excited you're here because I think we can kind of be raw, be real, and tell people what it's really like to
Hmm.
be a coach, to take that deep dive from the 9 to 5 and live our purpose and monetize our passion. And so, before we kind of dive into the topic, I always like to give our guests an opportunity to reintroduce yourself and kind of let us know, how did you get into the world of coaching?
Oh my gosh. My journey into coaching was completely intuitive. When I was going through corporate, and to be transparent, I am still in the corporate space or the academic space. I work for a university. I always thought coaches were only for executives, which meant usually wealthy white men, some women. I moved from Connecticut to Seattle, and all my friends were coaches. I'm like, why is everybody a coach? And they kept on telling me I needed to be a coach. I said, no way. I don't see anybody who looks like me. And the rest is really history. I just started to explore. I spoke to a friend who was a coach. What is a day in a life for you? She was a full-time coach. And the rest really was history. Then I decided to go into a training program, and it's been since 2018.
Wow, that look, you've been doing this for a little bit here, but
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
And I loved how you talked about the idea that you didn't see anybody like you in the space, because representation really matters. I think the reason why, when we look at certain jobs or industries, you see the same type of person, whether it's like their gender, the age range, the look, and that's because people gravitate towards people that look like them, that resonate with them, that have the same views as them. And I love that you are somebody who's on the front lines of really diversifying our community and saying, hey, there should be black, brown, and all the things in between type of
Hmm.
coaches. Because what happens when somebody's looking for a coach? They look for somebody who looks like them, that sound like them, who have their values. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we know that when people have the same types of backgrounds or have gone through the same types of life situations, they're able to resonate, they're able to connect, they're able to understand, empathize,
Hmm.
and sympathize. And so, while we're not saying, if you are a person of color, you can't have a white coach, or, vice
Nope.
versa. But I do think it's something that can be said about having the option, right?
Hmm.
To connect and find somebody who looks like you. Because I know for me, one time I was looking for a therapist.
Hmm.
I was looking for a therapist. And when I tell you I couldn't find anybody who looked like me, and the things that I was dealing with were things that I felt maybe somebody who hadn't come from my background just wouldn't understand. You know how
Yes.
that goes.
Yes.
And so coaching is the same way. It's like you really have to be comfortable. This is a very intimate relationship, right, between a coach and their mentee, we'll call it. And so I love, like I said, that you are kind of take spearheading this movement to diversify our community. So kind of with that being said, let's talk about, though, the mindset shift you had to make from going from just doing your 9 to 5 to then jumping into the world of coaching. What was that like for you?
It was scary. It was scary for me because, like, again, I had 20 plus years of being in a corporate environment, which is pretty much an institution, meaning I knew what hours I was going to work, my pay, all those things. And now, as an entrepreneur and a coach, I have to figure out some things like, I don't know any. I feel good in marketing now, but I had no idea how to market myself. I knew I wanted a website, but how do I write copy? So it it's you really, I think for myself, I think individuals really have to shift their mindset, like, okay, I am a business owner. That means
Mm.
I have the power and the sovereignty to make all my decisions. And I'm a big thing. I'm 100%. I will say, I need help. I don't know how to do this. And I will find the people to help me. Not haphazard. I research people before I hire them because it's an investment in my time, energy, and specifically my money. So, yeah, does that answer your question? Like it, but I will say it is a leap. You have to take really a leap of faith and know that I made mistakes and I continue to make mistakes. And I'm okay with that because I have the right to learn and I have the right to build my business. And I just want to circle back to something that you said about diversity. It's really important to see people that represent or look like us in the coaching industry. I feel like it's an epic fail and harm has been done because as organizations open up to scholarships and allowing people that look different, they need instructors to have a safe space to learn. And that's why I think it's so important for the coaching industry, or coaches, people who are thinking about coaches, find people to connect with that look like you. Take a chance and reach out because it's going to help you make that leap from corporate to coaching. That's
I
what I
love
have
that.
found.
Yeah, and I agree 100% because I was thinking back while you were talking about the different coaches I've had. And I've had men coaches, women
Yep.
coaches, coaches younger than me, coaches older than me,
Hmm.
coaches that look like me, coaches that didn't look like me. And I remember there was an actual thing that happened that I was like, oh no, this this ain't where I'm supposed to be. And look, I'm gonna call it out because it ain't gonna hurt him none. But I actually was in a Tony Robbins
Hmm.
program once, right? Top tier coach of the coaches.
Hmm.
Um and he told a story once, and the story was supposed to motivate and inspire us to, like, where there's a will there's a way. And if you can imagine, like, his voice, and he's all like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And one, that rah 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 don't work for me, like, talking about. But the story he told was like Michael Jackson invited him to his concert, but the concert started in 45 minutes, and he called his guy who owned a plane, and the guy came with the helicopter. He jumped in with his kids, and they couldn't get to the concert. So he told him, just hover over this airspace they weren't supposed to be in, and he would jump out. And somehow they were in like a secure location they weren't supposed to
Oh,
be in, and somehow they broke through the fence and got to the concert. My mind is saying, I am black. I would have been shot.
yes,
what
yes,
what are you
yes.
talking about? I don't have a friend with a helicopter to call.
Mhm.
I would not have made it. Michael Jackson would not have called me. And it
Exactly.
was, and so instead of being inspired by this amazing story of, like, I was gonna get there because this is the only time I was gonna get to, see Michael Jackson, in my head I was thinking, this is not the reality I live in.
Hmm.
And while this makes sense for him, because maybe even if the cops would have saw him, they would have probably, like, hey, sir,
Yes.
what are you doing here? Versus drop down, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be real, y'all. That's just like that's just not realistic for
Nope.
black and brown people in America, that we
Hmm.
are going to be calling up, even if I had the money to call up my helicopter friend. Again, I'm not going in restricted airspace. It's just not gonna happen because I'm risking my life, my kid's life. Like, we're not doing it. And so you do have to remember that. Now, again, did I learn a lot from him?
Hmm.
Absolutely. That's why he's the coach of the coach of the coaches. But you do have to realize that there were many instances where I was like, I can't relate, or that doesn't work for me. And I've noticed that when I have men coaches, I've noticed that when I have coaches that don't look like me, and I have coaches, I also notice that when I have coaches who have never been poor. There's so many levels to it.
Yes.
It's not just about color, because I come from a place of affordable housing,
Hmm.
poverty, below the poverty line. And when you have been gifted money from friends and family, when you already have a leg up, when you were able to have investors and things, you did not go through what I went through. So it's very hard to coach me through that. And
Right.
so I love that you are in a place, like I said, that you've gone through those things and you've identified that there are people that need what you have, right? Your knowledge, your understanding. And we didn't even really talk about it, but one of the things you do is help people, I'm almost going to say, realize their full potential, right? Because you're a life
Absolutely.
coach.
Absolutely. That's my and that is part of. I'll say my personal mission. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I did niche down. I know we're going to talk about this, where I decided I am helping women of color in corporate, nonprofit, small business, and entrepreneurs. Why? Because we're marginalized. Not to say there aren't other marginalized um, individuals. However, it's part of my story. And I could have used a life coach 10 years ago if I knew I knew if I knew the potential of it. I would have certainly invested in one. So that's why it's you know represent like you said, representation matters, as well as even if you don't choose to work with a coach that looks like you. I look for certain things like, do they believe in equity and justice and DEI initiatives, because that will tell me their beliefs, their core beliefs, even if they're learning and attempting to understand. Because when with coaches, like therapists, we can do harm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Tony Robbins was telling you, you could rise above this. And you're like, and it's not that you can't rise above it, but you also need someone to understand there are small steps to take to allow you to rise above it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in
And
magical things, but you know,
yes,
sometimes we have trauma and things that we need to do our own internal work to reach, and that's all
yeah,
part of it.
definitely.
So,
Yeah, and I love that you talked about niching down because it is important. Oftentimes we want everybody to invest in us, right? We can help everybody,
yep,
and it's not that we can't, but but the thing about marketing, and I've probably said it on previous episodes at this point, but the goal of marketing is for people to say "me too" and not "so what." If people come across your information and they see it and they're like, "Oh, okay," because it's so general that it doesn't call them out, it doesn't point to them, they're gonna bypass it because there's just so much in our atmosphere that we are in taking every single day. And so you people need to be like, hey Joe, hey Samantha, like they need to see that it's for them. Are you a a brown or a person who identifies as a black woman in the coaching space? Like, could you benefit from X, Y, and Z? They're like, oh yeah, that's she talking to me.
yes,
That's how marketing works. And so we're not saying to niche down to limit yourself, we're saying niche down to actually be able to help the people you're trying to help.
hmm
And I know, look, I know for me, and I'm probably speaking for you too, and most coaches out there, will we take on clients that are outside of our niche? More than likely, yes, depending if it's a good fit.
absolutely. And I do put that on my website. I will work with anyone who resonates with my energy and my being, because my tools as a coach are my tools. So yes, I can coach somebody who's going through maybe some relationship things or wants a relationship coach. Is that my specialty? No, but I have the same tools and I would still apply. And if I'm working with somebody in terms of niche who is in corporate and maybe she's realizing or they're realizing that they want to be a coach, I could work with her and doesn't or work with them, and it doesn't mean that things from their family or their relationship or their finances won't come up in that coaching in our coaching engagements. Um, there's something I wrote down about niche if I could share.
Go for it.
So one of the most important things about selecting a niche, and I agree with you, like, yes, we want to help everybody. And then to like when I decided on a niche, I felt so confined. I'm like, I don't know, this is so limited. It took me like a couple of weeks to live into it and step into it. I'm like, yeah, I believe that. So here's what I wrote about niches. Like, as a coach, you want to address the struggles and the challenges the person is experiencing. So, who specifically you want to help and what you help them with is really important when finding your niche. Um, some others know you can help them, so that others know that you could help them with their specific struggle. And again, doesn't mean that other things, it's just a tapestry and strings will come along, but you'll have the tools to support them or lead them to find the resources that they need.
Exactly. And niching down is one of your best marketing tools. Like, without knowing your target audience, you cannot market. It's just you're gonna be throwing darts at the sky, just like you don't even know where they're gonna land. And so I think that's one element. And then two, I'm trying to go back to what you were saying earlier. Oh my gosh, you said something really good that we got stuck in niches. Hold on, let me look, because
Okay.
it was about marketing. I'm
So
like,
I
wait a
start
second.
talking and I go,
I know it was good though. No, it was good because I was thinking about messaging too.
hmm
Because oh, that's what it was. So messaging is another part of your marketing, and one of the things that in your messaging you do have to talk about. You were talking about core values. That's what. See, I'm
hmm
back to you.
hmm
Core values. Back in the day, look, I'm gonna say back in the day. I was born in '88, y'all. So back in the day, um, you could have a brick and mortar in a town, right, or a city, but you may be the only person that does what you do. And so people kind of didn't have any other choice. If they needed what you had, they were really going to go to you, or they were going to have to drive to the next town. This is 2023.
hmm
That is not how it works now. You have to stand out from the rest. And a lot of the times, people don't want to just buy from a brand, they want to buy from a person. They want to know that they connect with you, that they resonate with you, that you are in line with their values. If you're in the US, and you know we are very polarizing when it comes to politics,
hmm
religion, all the things. And while, people still need to work on that, when it comes to our industry, people are going to be looking to see where your values line up. They're going to be looking into your personal social media account saying, okay, what have they been saying? Who are their friends? I look at pictures. If I don't see nobody that even maybe sort of kind of look like me, I'm like, oh, no, 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 no.
I'm the
Like,
same.
no. You have to though, because some people I find, and it's usually a certain population of people, will be like, oh, that shouldn't even matter, but it does, because it shows that you have a very small view of the world.
hmm
It shows that you have a very small understanding and acceptance of the world. And I personally love everybody. I lead with
Yes.
love, and
Yes.
so if I can't tell, and it may be that you just don't show it, and hey, that's a part of your marketing issue, but I need to know that you care about people, that you have a positive, open mind, and that when we work together, I'm not going to encounter things where I'm like,
hmm
that's how she feels. That's
Yep.
how he feels. Like, and I don't want that kind of relationship, because we do have options, right? We do. And because I have options, I'm going to go with the best option.
Yes, and the best fit for you that aligns with one what you want to accomplish and your own internal values. I agree 100% because I won't work with certain people because if I don't feel like their message is talking to me or that they resonate with me, I'll be like, that's going to be a conflict for me internally. So we have to make that decision. And I think that's a beautiful thing, especially since now coaching, I mean, I don't know anyone personally who right now is coaching one to one in person. A lot of it is all online now. So people have access to, like, if somebody wants to coach with you, Corey, and they live in Switzerland, they're still going to look at those things. Yes,
Yep.
right. Come, you know.
Yes, I love my foreign folk. I have people in the UK,
Oh,
people in Canada, Germany, India. Like, I want everybody.
yes, yes. And there,
For
and that,
sure.
and I also want to just say, in terms of those who are thinking about entering the coaching industry or want to, don't think competitively. Think collaboratively. Like we are
Yes.
worldwide, and that means that there is enough for everyone, and we are going against capitalism and the white male dominant patriarchy that says there's only so much for the 1%, 2%. I don't believe that's true. I don't operate that way. And like, I just think it's something to consider. You're not competing against someone who, if you go through training that's in your cohort, I'm not competing with you. I like to refer people. I'm not the best person for you. I'm not a business coach. You know what? I know Corey. Have a conversation with her. I feel like it's it's like that figure eight infinity. It gives and it takes. You give and you take, and it's really important, especially as an entrepreneur.
Yes, competition is definitely the stealer of joy. I find that people who are super competitive, that won't share, that gatekeep, they tend to not. excel like others do. I love being in communities where people are willing to give each other information,
Hmm.
uplift one another, share resources, refer. I get some of my favorite clients through referrals from other people either I've worked with
Yep.
or that we've connected with through whatever means. Like, I am not a life coach. I always tell people, like, you go somewhere else for that mindset stuff. Like, that ain't me. I will apologize on a call, like, sorry to cut you off. We doing the practical stuff over here. We're hands-on practical action over here. When you need to go talk about your trauma, when you need to go talk about, your imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
let me point you over here in this direction. It's not that those pieces aren't important, but like you said, we all have our own tools. And while we do, I will have moments where we talk about the realities of some mindset shifts that need to happen. I
Sure.
am not a mindset coach. I am not a life coach. I'm not a trauma specialist. I am
Hmm.
not a therapist. I am a business coach. My goal is to help you achieve your business goals
Yep.
by any means necessary. Like, that is my job. And so I think that, and you may not even realize this because we've only talked a few times prior to this, but our motto at IROC is I rock, you rock, we all rock. And it really goes into that feeling of,
Yeah.
yes, if I can do it, you can do it, we all
Yep.
can do it. And I'm telling you, if you go into entrepreneurship with that spirit and you really network and connect with others and are willing to collaborate, you will see yourself take off. And look, speaking of networking, let's talk about that, ma'am.
Yes.
What are your thoughts around networking as a entrepreneur?
I feel it's essential. I don't know if, oh, I might have lost you. I
Nope,
don't,
you're here.
oh, your video disappeared, so I thought I lost you. Sorry. I think networking is essential. Absolutely essential. And what does networking look like? Um, One, it could be having virtual coffee with another coach or a business. It can mean joining an organization where if you are a coach, you join that organization, you speak to other people, and it's a referral business. But to me, I will tell you the top three opportunities that I have in my coaching right now all came through networking. And when I say networking, like you, Corey, I lead with love, I lead with compassion, and I have real conversations. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything that they don't want from me. I just, I'm me. Like, I'm just me. I'm starting to get comfortable saying I'm a life coach. And people are saying, I need a life coach, or my friend was just looking for a life coach. Give me your card. Like those face to face interactions. But I will tell you right now, I have two beautiful opportunities that came through networking, and that is to do some group coaching, um, 8 weeks and 4 weeks with a nonprofit organization. I could have never come up with that on my own. That was a colleague and a friend who's like, Bettina, I think you'd be perfect for that. So it's important to establish relationships with people, not only in the coaching community, but other communities. And that can be if you go to a place to for spiritual practices, that could be your gym, that can be finding a specific organization that does students, whoever your niche is, think out the box. How can I reach out to this organization and let them know I exist? That's how I started my coaching business as well. There's a nonprofit organization where I'm based in the Pacific Northwest that supports BIPOC wellness. I looked at their list. I saw they didn't have any life coaches. They had meditation and yoga. I was like, hey, would you ever be interested in having a life coach on staff? Little networking. So, networking could be like an email conversation, it goes full circle. But I would say do what feels not only comfortable to you, stretch yourself, because when you stretch beyond what you feel you can do, that's where the magic, that's where like your world will start to expand in terms of networking. But I love networking. That's like networking is my jam because I like speaking to people, and I also want to address some people might be introverted and it might be a challenge. And it's like, okay, find the support that you need to step outside of your comfort zone so that you can expand, so that you could start to sustain yourself with your business and start thinking about, ooh, what are my next steps? So
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
that's how I feel about networking. I just love it. And And I will also say this: if you put a little energy into it, it will go a long way. And then it'll be like, oh, okay, just ride the wave. And I know that it might take a little push to get off and ride that wave. So, yeah,
Oh my
networking is
gosh, if you're
key.
listening to the podcast, you're missing that she lit up when she started talking about networking. She's like, networking? Yes, this is my jam. But no, I love networking. I always tell people to, especially as business owners, to intentionally network. Sometimes
Hmm.
people think that every conversation equals networking, but you really need to go into it with a mission,
Yes.
not to be super business like, but a mission. What are you hoping to accomplish? When I go to events, especially where my target audience is, I'm always like, okay, this is how many connections I want to aim to make. Because one thing you mentioned being an introvert, I'm like, now that I'm getting older, I realize I'm a little bit more introverted than I used to be. I used to be an excited extrovert, but once I hit about 30, I was like, a couple of hours, I'm done with this. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go.
Hmm.
I'm ready to go. So I had to be really intentional. And I'll say, okay, this is how many people I need to speak to, because sometimes you'll be waiting for people to connect and come to you, but
Hmm.
when you have a number in your head, you will get up because you're like, okay, I got to do 20 before I can leave. So let me go find 20 good connections. Let me have conversations. And don't be always interested in what you can get out of the conversation.
Right.
Be interested in how you can support them, because usually if you can find a way to help them out, and I'm not saying sell them something, but help them genuinely, they will go out their way to find a way to help you. I'm just going to let you know.
They really will. I actually found a client that way. Like I was on a online networking group and someone said, "Hey, I need help. Can somebody look at my website?" I said, "I'd be happy to look at your website." And I did it because I like looking at people's websites, making suggestions. Like I've learned enough in terms of marketing. Sent her back. She was like thrilled. She's like, if you ever want to attend one of my movement classes, just let me know, all that. And then, like, a couple months later, I was looking for clients and I was like, hi, you know what? Do you know anybody who would benefit from life coaching? And it really came to me. It wasn't something that I had in the back of my mind. And she's like, actually, I had a couple of conversations and she sent me a couple of referrals. And, and again, networking is conversations, and it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to say, I'm a life coach, I'm a business coach, I'm this. And then, like, because I feel people genuinely want to know what you do in the world, like what you contribute. And that's how you're going to find your people to work with and to collaborate with.
Absolutely. And I think, too, something to keep in mind as you network is sometimes this little thing called imposter syndrome creeps up on you in the midst of the conversation. I know for me, last year was a big shock for me. It was a culture shock because for the first time ever, I was thrown, I'm gonna say thrown into because I didn't know it was coming, but I ended up being in a space full of very academic people with like thousands of degrees, it felt like, and they were also in corporate industries where they were making, hundreds of $1,000s a year, and I just never grew up in that space. I wasn't accustomed to that space. And so even though I'm an amazing business coach and I know all these things and I've helped all these people, when I got in that space, I felt like yay big. I
Hmm.
was like, oh my gosh, I'm this little fish among these big sharks. And it took a second to kind of shake myself out of that, because while they are great at what they do, right? Everybody has
Yeah,
their thing. You're great at what you do. Like I'm
absolutely.
sitting here, Bettina is the master certified life coach. Look, she may not be your business coach, but she's gonna be the best life coach you ever had. And so even if she was in a room of other coaches, she's the only Bettina that there is, and you're the
Yep,
only you that exists. And so sometimes we are afraid to talk about what we do in our industry and the things and ways we can help people, because we think people are not going to see us as the amazing experts we are.
yep.
And sometimes we just kind of have to shift that. Now, when you're ready to shift that, you go to Bettina and you work on that. And then when she gets you together, you come back to me. But no, I do. I think that have you had to deal a lot with people with like imposter syndrome, being willing to kind of move into their greatness?
Um, I have had a few people, and I have shared some of that, but something that shifted my perspective on imposter syndrome. And I'm going to share the resource with you because there's a wonderful article, I think it was from 2021 or 2020, Harvard Business Review. Stop telling women that they have imposter syndrome. And I'll tell you
Mm,
why. Because if you think about, for those of you in corporate right now, maybe you wanted to move to a manager or a VP position, and you looked at the job description. You said, I could do that. I can't do that. I have a little experience in that. So that's you if you identify as a female, as a woman. A male may look at that. I know how to do that. I'm going to apply. They go ahead and apply. And that means that they get the interview, they find out what kind of mentoring or where they need to improve for a woman, or those of us who identify as women will pull ourselves out of it. And what I
yeah.
have learned is to say, I have the right to learn. So sometimes when I was in corporate, I would apply for things that were a little bit out of my stretch. Even now, as a master life coach, it's just a title. I did that because I felt like the credential was important to me as a Black woman in this industry. I can say that. Um, Not saying that that's everybody's route, but I felt that was important for me. But like when I enter rooms, it's like there's always something we're going to do to compare ourselves, which will in turn diminish ourselves. So I have worked with clients in the past and I experience it myself. And what I think is important when someone decides that they want to be a coach, know that you're not going to be the end all be all of all knowledge, that you will have your own work to do.
Hmm.
I always encourage clients of saying, well, like I use questions to help them. But I had a client who felt overwhelmed. She was applying for a new job, and we broke it down because she's like, everybody else has been teaching for 5 years. I had a certificate from Sri Lanka, and how is this going to apply here in the US? And we just broke it down in turtle steps. Can you just go to the portal, look at the questions they ask, write your answers, and then type them in? And so it's like breaking down the barriers in our mind that say, I can't do that. I'm not good enough. Instead of, I have the right to learn. I'm going to see. I'm going to find out. Am I qualified? And if we're not qualified for something, can we write an email afterwards? Can you tell me what I'm lacking? Or do you have anybody to help me? Like if it's on the job, job shadow, all these things. So the article is really beautiful at like breaking that down because like it's such a overlapping dome that, and I think men, and I'm not saying that men don't experience this where we say, I can't do that. It's like a wall we put around ourselves. So yeah, I know that's I don't know. I get passionate about things. I'm like, no. So I
No,
will share
you're
the
passionate.
article. I'll share that article with you because I think it'll help you because it'll even help anybody in business who's going for a contract or going for a grant and they see somebody who won the grant 2 times already. You can go for it as well. Mm.
Yes. Absolutely. Look, it'll be in the show notes. When she gives it to me, I will share it with you guys as well. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I got from what you were saying is don't be afraid to always kind of push yourself and stretch yourself to grow. You have to be willing to learn. I always tell, especially people who come to me for business coaching, don't rest on what you know.
Mhm.
And then just think you're going to be able to do things from there. You have to always be willing to invest back in yourself to learning new things because the world is always changing, new
It
things are coming up, and why not want to learn? Like I enjoy learning new things every single day. And it was funny that you talked about you wanted to get the certification for you. I did the same thing when I decided to be an official coach. I went and got a certification, not because it's required by any means. Most people don't care
right.
at all. But it was like I want to learn. Like I knew I was good at helping people, but I wanted to learn the art of coaching.
Hmm.
And then if somebody were to ask me, it's like, yep, I actually not only knew I was good at this thing because I feel like it's an art, but then I also wanted to understand the practical tools that I could then use to help my people get where they wanted to get to faster and more consistently.
Yes, 100%. Because like people have asked me like, well, do I need to get a certification to become a coach? And my answer is like, no, there are tools that you could learn and it doesn't take away the knowledge. You know, it's the same thing like if you were in corporate and you were applying for a job and they say, oh, we want a 4-year degree or experience. You have the experience and the tools will help you. Like it's a refinement. And I agree. It's totally an art form of asking questions, deeply listening to somebody, and sometimes hearing. what they're not saying.
Yes. That's usually where the truth lies, in between,
Yes.
when they're like, I need this. And I'm like, do you? Okay, I'm hearing this. But yeah, that's one of the hallmarks of a great coach, to hear the in between. But
Hmm.
look, we talk so much, we are about out of time. But
Okay.
before
Yes.
we go, I want people, because like I said, we could talk forever and ever. Like, I love talking to you. But before we go, I do want to give you an opportunity to let people know again who you work with, and if somebody is interested in working with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Sure. So again, I work with women of color that are in corporate, nonprofit, small business, or entrepreneurs who are looking for more meaning in their lives. And when I say more meaning, I mean you're doing fine on your job, in your business as an entrepreneur, but you have this sense that something is missing. You don't know what. It might not be another class. It might not be whatever you use to consciously or unconsciously fill those gaps, but you want more meaning in your life. I want to tell you a quick example. I had a client who she was working in finance. She forgot that she loved to write music. After a couple of coaching sessions, she signed up for songwriting, taking instruments, and now she has this wonderful work life balance because she's like, I know I was born to be on the stage. And at the same time, she's paying her bills. So it's those little things that I love to work and support with people. You can find me on my website. It's www.bettinamjones.com, and feel free to sign up for my newsletter. I just drop inspiration. It's a chance to get to know me. I know that working with a coach is a big investment, and it's important to build a relationship, whether it's directly or through my writings or podcast appearances. And Corey, thank you for this opportunity. I feel like I could talk to you all day.
Absolutely. That's what I said. I was like, I had to look at the time, because I was like, we gonna talk forever. But thank you for being a part of this podcast. I'm sure this is just the beginning of us connecting and collaborating in the future. But guys, if you enjoyed this conversation, I do encourage you to, one, rate this podcast, but also check out some of our past episodes. We bring on an
Mhm.
expert every single week to come and drop their expert knowledge with you guys. And remember, every single week, like I said, we drop a new episode. With that being said, guys, remember, I rock, you rock, we all rock, and I will talk to you guys soon.